My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. To read all my writing, go to counterpropa.com, support the site through the Amazon links, and donate button at Counterpropa. I have the wonderful pleasure of sharing a discussion I had with Mike Figueredo at the Humanist Report. I was on his channel, and it was a big honor for me. And I've been on Mike's channel before. Definitely subscribe to the Humanist Report. He is fantastic, and the link is below. And let's see, what's the title of the link? Chat with H.A. Goodman about Trump's belligerence, corporate Democrats, and more. It was a fantastic discussion with Mike. He is really awesome. Definitely share that segment and subscribe to the Humanist Report. I'm going to read you a very, very interesting take on North Korea, Trump, U.S. foreign policy. And I don't normally go in depth regarding New York Times articles because they're so in the tank for the Democratic Party. But when they're not in the tank and when it's not overt propaganda for the DNC or Hillary, there's some good journalism, even at the Washington Post, New York Times. A Cuban Missile Crisis in slow motion in North Korea. All the elements of the North Korean nuclear crisis, the relentless drive by Kim Jong-un to assemble an arsenal, the propaganda and deception swirling around his progress, the hints of a covert war by the United States to undermine the effort, rather than be forced into open confrontation, were on vivid display this weekend. It ends with a very interesting, periodically the North Koreans write about that experience, noting what a sap Colonel Gaddafi was to give up the nuclear program that might have saved him. Mr. Kim, it appears, is not planning to make the same mistake. All right. So, first off, what happens if the North Korean regime actually is dismantled? From, let's say Trump is so successful that there's no more North Korea and all the people in North Korea reunify. There's reunification between North and South Korea. There's one Korea. Is South Korea ready for that? Is the United States ready for that? Is the region ready for that? Mainly, is South Korea financially or economically and politically ready? And do they want that? That's a big discussion nobody's having. Because if you topple Kim Jong-un, then guess what happens? South Korea, it's reunification. It's like East and West Germany. And it was a good thing, but there are also dilemmas that take place. Economically alone, it would be a shock. And politically, a jolt as well. So that's one issue. But the Cuban Missile Crisis aspect is this. Who's going to blink? You have the U.S. Navy there in the region. You have Trump with his rhetoric, very hawkish. You have Kim Jong-un, who's testing missiles regardless of what anyone says, even with Chinese troops at his border. So now what happens? You're relying, if you are Trump or a Trump supporter, or if you agree with Trump's foreign policy, you're relying, or American foreign policy, because it's not just Trump, it's Hillary Clinton too. You're relying on Kim Jong-un to react in a rational manner. Now, this is a regime that has threatened war based on Christmas lights. South Korea, there are people in South Korea in the DMZ that wanted to go ahead and put up Christmas lights. And North Korean officials said, oh, this is tantamount to war. That's just one example. That was in 2011. So they're always threatening war. But what happens if they invade South Korea or they launch some type of nuclear retaliation when they feel that another regime change is imminent? With Khrushchev, with JFK, JFK ignored the advice of Curtis LeMay and his generals, ignored that advice to bomb Cuba, to invade Cuba again, ignored the advice. Had he done so, there would definitely have been World War III, because Robert McNamara stated that Castro told him when he visited Cuba that he was ready. He had told Khrushchev to already launch if the Americans invade or launch a missile or bomb the country. Do we have a JFK in this situation? Do we have a president who will ignore his generals when his generals say, okay, well, you got to do this if it means catastrophe? Give me your thoughts below. That's the parallel. That's one of the many parallels between the Cuban Missile Crisis and what's going on now with North Korea. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so much for listening.